What's up, guys? I'm CandidCrandell, and today I'm going to be talking about Pretty Little Liars Season 5, Episode 10, A Dark Alley. You know the drill. If you haven't seen the episode yet and you don't want me to spoil anything for you, pause this video right now and come back later. Mr. De Laurentiis has decided that it's time for him to show back up in Rosewood. There's something a little bit weird about that. I would think that if your child's kidnapper was still at large, you would be more likely to stay home with her. Allison looks down and away when her dad walks into the room. I'm not sure if it's because she's trying to play like the whole I'm ashamed, I didn't want to tell you it was this bad card, or if there's legitimately something about her dad that is off-putting to her. Allison tells the police that she doesn't know if Cyrus is the man who kidnapped her. She says that it's because she was blindfolded the whole time. The girls are all super pissed at Allie, and they're telling her that she can't just ID an innocent man and send him to jail. Obviously, the girls think that this is some kind of A trap. Spencer says, I'm sorry, do we have to remind you that you weren't actually kidnapped? If A is the one who sent him and this is an A trap, Allie thinks that they'll be able to follow Cyrus to A and win the game. Arya says that that's great, but what happens when they lose? I'm beginning to wonder if maybe Noel Kahn was not the person who broke into the Marin house, if potentially it was Cyrus. Thank God the cops are here so we don't have to worry about being imaginary kidnapped. Spencer Hastings, already on a roll with the sass tonight. The girls are beginning to wonder if Allie is going rogue. They're concerned about her identifying Cyrus and leading them all into a big A trap. They think that Emily will be the one most likely to convince her. Spencer decides to show Hannah and Arya Noel Kahn's insurance policy, all of the pictures of Allison and the tape recording. Spencer says that she has a place to hide it in her house. If I were Spencer, I would not be hiding anything in the house of Hastings, not with Melissa living in the backyard. Plus, for whatever reason, it seems like the Hastings are the least likely family to lock their doors in Rosewood or have a security system, despite being potentially the richest family. When Emily goes to talk to Allison about not IDing Cyrus, Allie says that she can't just say he's innocent. Right when she's about to talk to Emily about it more, her dad comes in. Mr. De Laurentiis says that that man knew every detail. How would he know unless he did it? We all want the same thing, to put this man away for a very long time. Whatever you're afraid of, please don't be. This man is behind bars and all we have to do is keep him there. I don't know if I'm reading too much into this at this point, maybe I am, but the look that Mr. De Laurentiis gives Allison after he says that was a little odd to me. I don't know, he seems very gung-ho on board with nabbing this guy when prior to him popping up, he was feeling okay enough to go on business trips, and now all of a sudden he's trying to be father of the year and go on a crusade against this dude. It just doesn't really add up to me. Ella is calling around to all the places that she had appointments for the wedding and canceling the banquet hall. I just feel so bad for Ella right now. She just can't catch a break, it seems like. Ella says that she feels like she should have seen this coming with Zach, that there were signs and she drove right past them. I'm interested as to what these signs were. Hannah decides to go on a cleaning spree of the cabin that Caleb is staying at, throwing away all of the junk food and alcohol. Hannah talks to Caleb about a chorus audition that was announced in class today and how all these girls started freaking out about it, and she wonders what it would be like to lose sleep over something that trivial. Although after listening to her singing What Child Is This, I was a little surprised to hear that she would want to go out for a chorus solo. Spencer goes to hide Noel Kahn's insurance policy, and the place that she's looking to hide it is a box in the red leather armchair in her room. So the box that we saw the person in the black hood take something out of was in Spencer's room. What they took was Spencer's recording of Allie's medical exam. Ruh-roh, that's not good. Who was in Spencer's room? I think the obvious choice would be Melissa, but as we know with Pretty Little Liars, we should probably not go with the obvious. Then again, Melissa does show right up in Spencer's room while she's tearing apart things looking for the tape. Oh, are you looking for something or just redecorating? Don't give me that, Melissa. Don't give me that. While Melissa is still in the room, Spencer gets a phone call. She says, "Hi, Allie," when she picks it up, which suggests to me that on the caller ID it said that it was Allison calling her. But when she answers, all she hears is a section of the recording of Allison's medical exam. Does Allison know that Spencer lost that tape and Allison is calling her? Or has A done something and routed the call through Allison's phone so that it shows up as Allison? I also thought it was weird that Melissa was there during the call, as if to make Spencer think like, oh, well, Melissa couldn't possibly be involved in this if she was standing right here when I got the call. After Melissa leaves the room, Spencer gets a text from A. All it says is, "Checkmate, A." I think most people understand what checkmate means even if they don't play chess. However, there are several characters on here that do play chess. So my thought would be that potentially that points to one of them. Melissa. Mona probably also knows how to play. Ren wouldn't surprise me either. I feel like Ezra knows how to play. Caleb is going for a run, getting in shape and sweating out all that vodka. I need to know what is going on with that weave on Troyan's head. It's been on there for a couple episodes, and I think that there's gotta be a reason why she's wearing a wig. I think that they probably had her start wearing it early enough so that we like got used to it and it wasn't just like it showed up in the episode that it's going to come into play in. That would probably be too obvious because you look at it and you're like, oh, Troyan's got a weave. That's distracting. Spencer is looking through the surveillance tape footage and she sees Melissa coming out of the barn and handing something to a man wearing a jacket and a baseball cap. The man comes from out of the woods next to the barn, and he's coming from the same direction that Allison was walking in when Spencer saw her on the footage in her backyard a few nights ago. Was the person that Melissa gave something to the same person that Allison was meeting that night when she was wearing the beanie in a completely different outfit? Also, who is this man that Melissa is giving something to? Presumably she's giving him the tape from Spencer's chair. It looks kind of like Ezra when he's wearing his baseball hat, but when I looked even closer, it kind of looked like Jason. We have no idea where Jason is right now. He said that he was leaving Rosewood, but did he really, or is he lurking about somewhere else? Melissa and Jason are half siblings, so it wouldn't surprise me if they were working together. Plus, Melissa knew about the NAT club. Melissa also says something to the man, "Do it, trust me, do it." This happened 3 nights ago, aka 24 hours before Cyrus Petrillo confessed to kidnapping Allison. So the girls are wondering if the person that Melissa was talking to was Cyrus. I think it would be very risky to have them be meeting face to face. So I have a feeling that it was probably someone else. Spencer has a plan. She wants to break ties with Allie and go to Tanner and tell her the truth. That they had no idea that Allison was alive until they found her in Ravenswood. True. And anything that they've been saying about the 2 years that she was gone is just what Allison told them. That she's been lying to them too. And that they've got the pictures to prove it. I was saying last week, why don't the girls do this? Clearly Spencer has kind of come to that conclusion as well. I think that they should recognize that in the past they've jumped to some conclusions and gotten themselves in bigger trouble by doing so. Turning in stuff to the police has almost never turned out good for them. My advice would be to hold on to that and not use it just yet. Arya says, the truth doesn't amount to much when it comes from a bunch of liars. And I think that that's one of the continuing themes throughout this show is that these girls are all notorious for lying. So by the time they actually tell the truth about something, people tend to think that they're being over dramatic. Hannah goes to the chorus auditions and of course Mona is there. Side note, Janelle Parrish has a beautiful singing voice. Oh my gosh. Arya is over at Ezra's apartment and Ezra is fixing up his bike, getting ready to go for a bike ride for what I think is the first time since season 1. I don't know what it was about dating Arya that made him like no longer interested in bike riding, but he hasn't been doing much of it. Ezra has gotten the all clear from his doctor and he got his stitches out. Arya fills Ezra in on the whole Cyrus incident and saying that she's not sure if Allie is going to ID him. Ezra wants to know where Allie is because he wants to talk to her. Arya says no and makes Ezra promise that he will not talk to Allison, that she doesn't want him to get back on Allie's crazy train. But I think that Ezra has more at stake in this than just getting physically injured, and I think that the reason that he wants to talk to Allison is because there's more involvement to it. Regardless, Ezra makes the promise to Arya, and we're all sitting there knowing that he can't keep that promise. What are the chances of him keeping that promise? Ezra can't help but stick his nose in teenage girls' business. That sounded gross. but it was also kind of true, so I'll leave it, I guess. Mr. De Laurentiis is meeting with a social worker. He thinks that Allison fears retribution and that that's the reason why she's not IDing Cyrus. When Allison is telling Emily this, she has a pillow on her lap and she's like messing with the fringe in a way that implies that she's anxious, and I don't think that this is an act. Emily says to Allison, "You love that for once everyone believes you." And Allison says to Emily, "That's not what this is about. Cyrus isn't a stranger, that he's the one who gave her the scar on her thigh." It's important to note that at this point, none of the other girls knew about Allison's scar except Hannah. This is Emily's first time seeing Allison's scar, and clearly it shocks her. And I think that that might have been strategic on Allison's part. There must have been a reason why she didn't want Hannah to tell the other girls, and it's probably because she was waiting to reveal it at a certain time. Allison says to Emily that she doesn't know how A found him. So Allison seems to think that A is also behind setting up Cyrus. It seems interesting that she would bring this up right when Emily is telling her, like, you have to say that he's innocent because he didn't kidnap you because you weren't kidnapped. I'm not sure if Allison is lying about Cyrus giving her the scar or telling the truth. There is no denying that the scar is real. And I really truly don't think that Allison would have given it to herself. That seems really extreme even for Allison De Laurentiis. Someone at some point cut her there. The question is who? Was it really Cyrus, or at this point is it just convenient for her to say that it's Cyrus? Allie says that she was living in an abandoned basement with Cyrus, that he didn't know who she was, just that she was on the run. But he didn't want me. He just wanted my stuff, my money. Even after Allison has told Emily that Cyrus was the one to give her the scar, Emily says that A must be using Cyrus to catch her in a lie. Mona passes out in the chorus room right before the audition. Despite what Mona and Hannah have been through, I like that Hannah is still concerned for Mona when she passes out. Spencer brings the pictures over to Emily's house, and Emily says that she doesn't want them in her house and that if they're not safe at Spencer's house, they're definitely not safe at hers. The problem is that they're really not safe anywhere. I think the girls need to get like a safe, somewhere that they can hide important stuff because they've got really nowhere. Noel Kahn calls Spencer and Emily tells her not to answer, which really made me mad because I want to know what Noel Kahn knows because I think he knows a lot more than everybody else. Ignoring a call from him was just straight up stupid. Emily says that she heard Spencer's plan and that there's no way that they're throwing Allie under the bus. Emily says that Allie isn't dangerous, she's hurt. Spencer asks for her to elaborate on this and Emily says that Allison doesn't want her to tell Spencer or anyone. And Spencer's like, oh, of course, this is how it always is with you two. Emily says, Allie's not the problem, Spencer. Melissa is. That's a pretty bold statement. Then again, I think Melissa is definitely involved in this somehow, and she definitely knows at least one thing that she's not telling. When Mona wakes up from passing out, she starts freaking out about where her bag is, and she tells Hannah that she needs it, so Hannah goes over to grab her purse, and like the smart cookie she is, decides to look in it first, because if Mona needs her bag right now, there's probably something in it. Lo and behold, Hannah finds Cyrus Petrello's mugshot inside Mona's purse. What is that doing there? Ezra sees Allie at the brew and almost keeps his promise to Aria and like starts walking away and then turns around and sits down at the table with Allison. No, don't do that. Why are you making promises that you're like breaking hours later? Not good, man. If you're hoping to get Aria back, this is not the way to be doing it. Ezra says to Allie, you are not alone in this. A lot of people have supported you, done everything you asked, gone along with your stories, including you, Ezra. Allie says, is that a threat? Ezra replies, right now it's an observation. That kind of implies that at some point it might become a threat. Allie says, did Aria ask you to talk to me? Because I swear, if one more person tells me what to do, I'm gonna scream. Right then, of course, Mr. De Laurentiis comes up and sees Ezra sitting at the table with Allison and confronts him. Ezra has made a serious mistake because her dad is gonna be like, who's that random older guy that you were talking to? What is going on here? Clearly I missed some things before, so who's he? Unfortunately, Mr. De Laurentiis is not the only person who sees this conversation. Aria sees it too. Wah wah. Aria is clearly pissed at Ezra, and who can really blame her? He couldn't even last 24 hours without breaking his promise. Aria's watching her mom's engagement fall apart. She's recently watched her parents' marriage fall apart. Everything that she thinks she knows about love and every example that she's been given is just that guys lie. That's not a good pattern for Arya to be seeing, and Ezra is kind of concreting that for her. I don't think he realizes that. Hannah finds Mona sitting in a car that is not hers. Apparently it is a rental car. I'm not really sure how Mona was allowed to rent a car unless she has a fake ID or unless someone who is older rented it for her. She's sitting right outside the Rosewood police station trying to figure out who Cyrus is and who found him and who set this whole thing up. At the very least, Mona is saying to Hannah that she didn't have anything to do with this. Mona could be lying, like she does all the time, but Mona could also be telling the truth. I have a feeling that Mona probably was not behind this though. Mona is able to gain access to Lieutenant Tanner's phone and hears that she is bringing Mr. De Laurentiis and Allison to the 5th Street house to see if she can identify the basement. Hannah tells Mona to follow them, and Mona's like, we're not here to follow her, we're here to follow him, referring to Cyrus. I'm not sure at this point if Mona is trying to do what Allison was wanting to do of following Cyrus to A. Arya and Ezra argue about him talking to Allison. Arya's like, you had to do it in a public place? Like, what if Tanner had seen you? If she realizes that you're connected to Allison, then it's all over. I'm not entirely sure what she meant by then it's all over. There's a pretty decent sized part of me that secretly hopes that maybe we'll find out that Arya and Ezra have been working together as A this whole time. I would kind of love it if they were the bad guys. I think that that would be a really fun twist. Spencer comes back into her house after searching the barn and finds Melissa hanging out in the dark, which seems to be one of her favorite pastimes. Melissa knows that she was in the barn and wants to know if she found what she was looking for. At first, Spencer tries to be like, oh, I was looking for a sweater and I didn't find it. And then Spencer comes clean and says that she saw Melissa's computer and that she was looking up flights to London, Zurich, and Taiwan. Spencer wants to know if Melissa is taking a vacation or running away. Melissa says, I only helped Mona because I wanted you to see that Allison hasn't changed. She is as toxic as ever. Sooner or later, Allie's gonna get what's coming to her, and when that happens, I don't want you standing too close. So from Melissa's point of view, she's doing all of this out of sisterly protection of Spencer. Melissa says that she still can't tell Spencer what her secret is. You should know that honesty doesn't come easily for this family. It is not safe here for me, or for you. Maybe you should come with me. This is interesting because this is not the first time that Melissa has said that it's not safe for her or Spencer there. Why isn't it safe for them? Lieutenant Tanner takes Allison and her dad into the abandoned basement that she was supposedly kept in, and Allie has a flashback. And it definitely seems like what Allison was seeing was real. It looks as though being in that space is triggering her memory. In her flashback, there are a bunch of shelves with supplies. There's also a couch and there's a couple other people down there. This is interesting because Cyrus said that no one else was in the basement, and Allison also said that she was only there with Cyrus. Clearly a lie. We also see our old friend, the Isle of the Dead painting, hanging out in this basement. So I'm thinking that when Allie saw that painting in the funeral home, it might have triggered a flashback of the basement for her. I found it really, really strange that this painting was in an abandoned basement with a bunch of homeless teenagers. That's an expensive painting, unless it was just like a poster or a print, but why would one of them be carrying that around? And it was framed, so it definitely didn't look like something that could just like roll up and be taken easily, which is making me wonder if the building was potentially owned by the Springer or Fitzgerald family. We've seen this picture so many times now that there's gotta be something to it. The first time we see it is in season 3, episode 8, Stolen Kisses, behind Arya and Ezra's mom when they are talking at the museum. We see it again this season in the funeral home when Allie is there with Hannah. Apparently it was somewhere in Ravenswood, and now we've seen it again in the basement. So this painting clearly gets around and it seems to be following Allison everywhere, and I'm not sure what it is about it, but it is definitely a trigger for her. Another interesting thing that I found out when I was doing some research into this painting is that it appeared in the movie I Walked with a Zombie. That should sound familiar to you because it was the movie that Emily and Maya went to see on their first date together. Also, Maya bought Emily a shirt of the movie poster. Val Lewton did I Walked with a Zombie, and he also made a movie called Isle of the Dead based on the Isle of the Dead painting. Another thing that I found super interesting is that the Isle of the Dead painting is mentioned in one of Vladimir Nabokov's novels. Not in Lolita, but it is mentioned in Despair. We all know that Vivian Darkbloom, Allison's alter ego, she got the name from Lolita. The name is also an anagram for Vladimir Nabokov. In Allie's flashback, it shows that she brought Cyrus into the basement and introduced him to her friends. Cyrus tries to steal her bag with another girl, and when Allie tries to take it back, Cyrus pulls out a knife and stabs her. If that is the case, then shouldn't Allison's blood be somewhere in the basement? That scar looked pretty decent size, so she probably was bleeding a good bit. There should be traces of her blood somewhere, right? I'm curious as to if they'll look into that forensically. Lieutenant Tanner says to Allison, "You remember this place?" And Allison says, "I can never forget it." I've said before, I think something really did happen to Allison while she was away. I just don't know what it is. Lieutenant Tanner makes a call saying to not release Cyrus because Allison has identified the location. Mona says that she fainted in the chorus class because of a panic attack. Hannah's like, "Since when do you get panic attacks?" Since Allison came back. Allison really scares her, and that's why she went on the offensive. Caleb calls Hannah and she lies to him about where she is. Mona says, "Lying to your boyfriend again? Nice." Hannah replies, "Oh please, like Mike Montgomery knows a single true thing about you." Mona gives Hannah an interesting look when she says this, and I'm not sure if it means that Mike knows all about Mona because he's in on this. Aria talks to her mom about how she is struggling with her feelings for Ezra. She said that when he was in the hospital, she was making this list in her head of all the things that she would say to him if she just had the chance. Because he survived, she still has that list in her head. I'm beginning to wonder if Ezra getting shot was planned. After Aria found out about the book, it might have been one of the only ways that he was able to win her back quickly. I mean, when Aria is describing all the things that she wished she could say to him after she found out he got shot, prior to that, she was ready to be done with him, telling him to leave Rosewood and that she never wanted to see him or speak to him again. And then she's done a complete 180 after he got shot. So seems like it was pretty convenient for Ezra to get shot and win Aria back. And where he was shot was interesting because I think A has proven that they're pretty meticulous. If they really wanted to kill Ezra, wouldn't they have shot up in the chest or towards his head or something, like if they really wanted to silence him? But no, they shot him in the stomach, a place where yes, he was losing a lot of blood and yes, it was dangerous, but there was still a chance that he would survive. I don't know, I wouldn't put it past anyone. Hannah sends an SOS out to the girls about Allison IDing Cyrus. They hear Lieutenant Tanner say not to release Cyrus and they're like, crap, Allison has identified him. So all the girls are naturally freaking out now because Allison told them that this was not what she was going to do. Emily confronts Allison about IDing Cyrus, beyond pissed at this point. Emily is the person who I think is most willing to forgive Allison again and again and again because I think she truly sees the good in Allison and that's what she wants to see. But right now, Emily is feeling super betrayed. She thinks that Allison is just trying to throw them under the bus and Allison says that she has a plan. Emily says that she's always stuck up for Allison with Paige, with Spencer, with everyone. I'm done, Allie. I'm so done with you. Allie looks hurt by this, but it also seems like she might be doing this on purpose. I honestly think that Allison is pushing the girls away from her in order to protect them. A won't attack her unless A thinks she's vulnerable. Allison has to get everyone away from her to draw out A. If she can reveal the true identity of A, her friends will understand that everything she was doing was just for that. Allison has said before, once you know something, you can't unknow it. Whatever Allison knows has gotten her into big trouble with A. She realizes that she can't unknow it, but she can protect her friends from knowing it. I'm also wondering if this is another instance where Allison is testing the girls. She's trying to see who is still on her side, who's willing to just trust her plan. I think she's realizing that none of them really trust her, and if she was going to involve them in something, it's probably not safe for her to, unfortunately. Cyrus was released by the cops. He had just been released before Tanner made the call to hold on to him. So now there's a warrant out for his arrest. Spencer says that from talking to Melissa, she thinks that A has something terrible in store for Allison and them. It's interesting that she interpreted it this way though, because from what Melissa was saying, I kind of felt like she was suggesting that as long as Spencer got away from Allison, she'd be fine, that Allison is the target. But then again, the main plan of Mona's army right now is to make sure that Allison is completely isolated and try to run her out of Rosewood. So Melissa trying to move Spencer away from Allison could be her role in that. Emily comes into Hannah's house and says to the girls that they need to move forward with Spencer's plan, that they need to cut ties with Allison now, tonight, because they can't trust her. This is really heartbreaking for me to see Emily finally get to the point where she is ready to turn on Allison, because Emily's never turned on Allison before. Through everything, Emily has always had Allison's back and always thought the best of her. Cyrus meets up with someone in the woods. They're wearing a black leather jacket and they have dark hair. And at first I think we're all thinking, oh, is this Mona? Oh, is this Melissa? As soon as we get to pan closer, we see that it is Allison, wearing the Vivian Darkbloom wig, I think. Cyrus says there's a warrant for my arrest and I barely got out in time. That was not the deal. According to Cyrus, Allison was the one who asked him to go into the police. Allison says, you're lucky there was even a deal at all. I should have left you for dead when I found you. No one would miss you, Cy. Not even for a minute. Cyrus responds that he could have told the cops the truth about Allison, about how they met and all the fun they had together. And Allison says, well, then both of us would have lost, but now both of us win. And she hands him a plane ticket and a passport. I'm wondering if Melissa wasn't buying plane tickets for herself, but for Cyrus. Now, if she was buying plane tickets for Cyrus, theoretically, Allison probably asked her to do that? Melissa and Allison working together? That would be weird. Allison says to Cyrus, I found you once. You can bet your life I can find you again. This is your chance to start over, Cy. Like you, Allie? It seems from the way that Cyrus is speaking to her that he doesn't fully approve of how Allison is using her second chance. Cyrus gets into his car to leave, and we recognize this car. It is the black SUV that Ezra saw Allie get out of when they were walking around Rosewood one night. Remember when she was leaning in the window and she said that it was just one of her dad's co-workers that he drove her over here? That was Cyrus. So Allie's been in contact with him for a while, and that also means that she's not just some girl on the run to him. He clearly knows who Allison De Laurentiis is. So that means that Allison was lying to Emily. I'm curious as to how long it takes for a scar like the one Allison has to heal to that amount. I'm not necessarily sure that Cyrus is the one that gave it to her, because why would she be working with someone who stabbed her? Every time she looks at the scar, she seems clearly disturbed by it. It wouldn't surprise me if we still don't know the real way she got it. Melissa makes a tape of herself for Spencer, saying that she's going to tell her the truth before it's too late. I am really nervous about the fact that Melissa has decided to make a videotape for Spencer. Video evidence, never a good idea. You don't know whose hands it could get into. Also, I'm curious as to why Melissa is feeling the need to make this. Is she planning to run away? Is she going to fake her death? Is someone actually after her? I am starting to get very nervous about the fact that Melissa might be the one dying in the summer finale. I would be sad about that, but I think it would also move the plot forward in a really interesting way, because I think we've all thought Melissa was Big A for so long, just like we did with Ian, just like we did with Garrett. And so when these people die, it makes us realize, like, well, crap, we don't know who it is. All this stuff that I've been thinking for months and months and months, it doesn't matter because this person's dead and this stuff is still happening. At the end of the episode, we see the person in the black hoodie packing up. It looks like they're going on a trip somewhere. They're folding black hoodies, and they've got several pairs of black leather gloves, and they have one of the hospital uniforms that the girls were wearing. All of the girls have worn them. Allison has worn them, and then all of the Pretty Little Liars have worn them. So this doesn't necessarily point to the fact that it's Allison. It more than likely points to the fact that A is going to be putting someone in the hospital soon. I think after this episode, a lot of people are making the assumption that Allison is A. It seems really obvious right now, all the things that she's doing. She said that Cyrus would run back to A and he met up with Allison, so oh, Allison must be A. And I think that it's too obvious. That this is another one of those Pretty Little Liars sleight of hands where they get us to look over here and A's actually over here. Allie is probably a red herring of sorts. There is one way in which I think that Allison could potentially be A. And if she is A, I truly believe she doesn't know that she is. The only way that it would be possible is if she has dissociative identity disorder. It used to be called multiple personality disorder. It is not schizophrenia. It's completely different. Dissociative identity disorder is characterized by people having at least 2 or more distinct personalities in addition to the host personality. So in this scenario, the host personality would be Allison herself, and one of her alters, which is what they call the other personalities, could potentially be A. A lot of times the host isn't aware of the existence of the alters and vice versa. While the host tends to be fairly grounded and not have a lot of violent outbursts, the alters can be extremely violent, oftentimes towards the host themselves or to other people. There have been instances where people that the host is perfectly fine with, an alter will have a problem with. If A was Allison's alter, she might legitimately not know that she's A. Although the cause is unknown and they can't necessarily pinpoint anything in particular, a lot of patients who have been diagnosed with dissociative identity disorder are often abused either physically or sexually at a very young age, under the age of 9. It can also happen when the parents display erratic behavior or there is neglect going on. I've always felt a weird vibe about the De Laurentiis house, and it would not surprise me if some combination of those things was going on. Also, when Allison says, friends share secrets, that's what keeps us close, that kind of sounds like something that an abuser would say to a young child to keep them from talking. And it would also explain Allison's obsession with finding out other people's secrets. If she was abused in some way and her parents knew about it, whether it was by one of them or a friend or Jason, they probably told her that she needed to keep it a secret and that she couldn't tell anyone. And if she was told that at a very young age, it might have skewed her understanding of telling the truth and what lies are about. I just think that that would be a really, really, really interesting twist, and I would also love to see Sasha get a chance to play that. It also wouldn't surprise me if they're not going in that direction at all, because it's pretty complex and it's pretty dark. Another important question that I'm kind of wondering after this episode is, we've never really looked into why Lolita is Allison's favorite book. Sure, it's famous, a lot of people have read it, a lot of people are familiar with it, but I don't know many people who would describe it as their favorite book of all time. I'm interested as to why Allison would describe that as her favorite book, potentially because she identifies with the character of Lolita. Finally, was anyone else as sketched out as I was about the fact that Jenna and Sydney seem to be missing completely in this episode? They were so prominent last episode, and then this episode, while Mona and Melissa are up at the forefront, Jenna and Sydney seem to be off in the back doing something sketchy, probably wearing their sunglasses and matching outfits. I am pretty nervous about what they're up to, because it feels like another situation where we're being distracted. We were so focused on Melissa and Mona in this episode that we're like, oh yeah, hey, where were the creepy sunglasses twins? Where'd they go off to? Let me know down in the comments what you thought of this week's episode, and if you have any theories or questions, I would love to talk about them with you. If you don't already, you can follow me on Twitter, Tumblr, Blogspot, and Instagram, username CandidCrandell. You can also chat with me live on Beamly every Tuesday during new Pretty Little Liars episodes at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, link down in the description. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you again on Thursday. Bye!